Hello students, today we're going to draw with value and we're going to create drawings of crayons. I can color with value. Value deals with the lightness or darkness of a color. And since we see objects and understand objects because of how dark or light they are, value is incredibly important to art. Value is the key to the illusion of light. This is why value is so incredibly important to drawing and painting. This is a photograph of an egg being lit up from a light. And we can see that the light source is coming from the lamp. And the area of the egg that is closest to the light source or the lamp is very light value. And the back is the darkest value of that egg. We also see that it casts a very long shadow underneath on the opposite direction of the light source. This is a still life painting of 3 apples by Paul Cézanne, and without those shadows or those different values, we might not get the sense that those apples are actually in a space. They would just seem like they're floating. So being able to add value and shadow really helps creating the illusion of space and depth in art. For today's lesson, we're going to work on drawing crayons, actual crayons, just like this one, only instead of making them very thin, we're going to imagine that they are a bit larger and wider so that we have more space to work with. And I'm going to start by making a rectangle about that size, and then I'm going to add a triangle for the tip of my crayon. I'm going to add a second crayon underneath my first crayon, and to do that, I'm going to start the rectangle up here. And then I'm going to imagine the line that goes underneath this crayon to the lower crayon. And I don't really like that line right there, so I'm just going to redo it. Not everything is perfect the first try, and this doesn't have to be perfect either. So with my second crayon underneath my first crayon, I'm going to make the tip. And I think I'm going to make the tip on top, the triangle point. Now I'm going to make probably about 5 crayons, but depending on the size of your paper and how large you drew them, you might make 3 to 5 crayons. That's what we're asking for this assignment, 3 to 5 crayons. And again, it's just a simple shape of a rectangle with a triangle point tip. And I think I'm going to make a broken crayon just for fun because I always have broken crayons laying around. I don't know about you. So I'm going to make mine as though it broke in half, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to make the tip, the triangle. And I'm going to make one more crayon drawing. And I'm going to put it down here. And again, it's very simple, just a rectangle. And then the triangle for the point. Now I'm going to start to think about where my light source is. And so it's easier, I'm going to imagine that my light source, like that lamp we saw in the egg picture, is at the very top of my piece of paper. So all of my shadows are going to be on the underneath side of my crayons, on the side that's closest to the bottom of my paper. So I'm going to start by making a darker line right at the bottom of my crayon. And that way I know that's the darkest value. That's where the darkest color is going to be, because it's going to be opposite my light, which I'm imagining is at the top of my paper. And I'm going to make very careful strokes and not press too dark for the rest of this. I'm just going to shade it in and gradually work on my values. I want the very lightest value, like with that egg, to be at the very top of my crayon, because I'm imagining the light is at the top of my paper. So I've sped it up a bit in editing, and I'm just coloring in with value. I'm using the darkest shades at the bottom of my crayon and the lightest shades towards where I imagine my light source is, which is the top of my paper, as though it's at the very top, above my paper. And I'm going to choose a different color for each crayon. And again, I'm going to make a darker line at the very bottom of each crayon so that I know that's where I'm going to make my darkest value. And it's the most difficult thing to make the lightest value. So that way I get a feel for the color I'm using and how dark or how light I have to go. And I'm going to do the split crayon the same exact way. Now after I get all the colors in and I have the values going from dark to light, I'm going to go back to my pencil, and this is going to give it a little bit more pop. I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow on those darker value sides. And then do you see how it makes it look pretty three-dimensional? Isn't that neat? I want the shadow to be the opposite direction of the light source, which is the top. Now, the fun part is you could take that color that you used for each crayon and you can imagine that it's making a line. And you can try to make all different kinds of lines, as though these crayons have just scribbled. I'm going to use a curvy line for this one, but the next one I'm going to use a different kind of line. I think I'm going to make a zigzag kind of a line. And you can use all different kinds of lines, or you can have your crayons drawing something. I think I'm going to have my green crayon make stars. But I needed to have a little bit of space, so I'm going to make the line come down to where I have space, and then I'm going to make some stars as though my crayon just drew all these stars. And you can be as creative as you want with this. Your crayons can make anything. I think for my last crayon, or no, my second to last crayon, I'm going to have it make a word. I'm going to have it say hello in cursive handwriting, which means all the letters are connected. And then I'm going to add an exclamation mark at the end. So I have one more crayon to go, and I think the next one is going to make a dashed line, and that's about it. So I made 5 crayons. You can make 3 to 5 crayons for this assignment, depending on how large you make them and how much space you need on your paper. And then when you're done, if you're doing this at home, please make sure you photograph your work and submit it to this assignment so you can get credit. I really look forward to seeing all the different ways that you used value and color in your drawing.